there were some people on these panels who thought it's going to be the next big thing. They think it will work despite the setbacks they've had recently with some of the backers pulling out. But I was doing quite a bit of digging around and research on it while I was there. And there is an issue that I just want to make people aware of. There was a lot of talk about Facebook and Libra. And I just want to touch upon that because Libra is their cryptocurrency they want to create. There's a number of payment companies that all came together that are going to create this, be the backing of this new Facebook currency. And the idea that people could use a non-centralized currency, so it's not under the laws of a particular government or central bank. It's its own entity, borderless, can be used to make transactions anywhere. Sounds quite good, to be honest, because you could pay people through WhatsApp and Facebook and stuff like that. Now, there were some people on these panels who thought it's going to be the next big thing. They think it will work despite the setbacks they've had recently with some of the backers pulling out. But I was doing quite a bit of digging around and research on it while I was there. And there is an issue that I just want to make people aware of. When people go on about their Facebook and their currency and all it's going to be the next big thing, and it's really about how currencies work and the problem that could come with it. It's just a bit of food for thought. When Facebook wants to launch a currency, what they will do, they're going to try and back it with assets. So that will probably be a basket of currencies, other currencies out there. So it's got some intrinsic value. What that means is that Facebook would start to acquire assets. It could be government bonds. It could be various different investments in effectively a wealth fund. And if you imagine if every Facebook user and WhatsApp user out there and Instagram users converted, just imagine it, and I think that's about 3 billion people started using that currency, the assets, the wealth fund that would be backing this currency would be the biggest wealth fund in the history of the planet. It would be bigger than any of the sovereign wealth funds you see in some of the oil-rich states, countries, I should say. It would be so powerful that they could theoretically dictate to governments what to do. Because the reason that could happen is if a company uses a domestic currency, that government has an element of control over that company. And if it doesn't use their currency, then it doesn't have that control. The problem comes when you have a company, essentially, whether it's the collective that decides that is running a currency, it no longer is at the whim of a government. In fact, what would happen is it would acquire the power to tell governments what to do. Already you have companies, whether they like banking or it could be car manufacturing, that lobby governments and try and get them to do what they want to do. That already exists. And you've even got things where you have investment banks sell down assets. They have big pools of assets and they sell them because it might push down the value of, or might increase lending in a particular country or something like that. Basically, they got a political clout. They try and do it to give some sway. If Facebook was that big, and its currency had that big a reserve, it could not only bankrupt any competitor or company it didn't like, it could, if somebody didn't want to use their currency, it could exclude them from the global financial markets. But it could also bankrupt a country. It would be bigger than the US Federal Reserve. That means the US Federal Reserve, the central bank, the most important central bank in the world, would no longer have any control over its own economy. Facebook could, if it wanted to, crash their economy if it decided it wanted to do it. It would be able to, by selling down these assets, by buying assets, or, like I say, selling things, it can start to threaten to do it. It can manipulate things. It could just, because it didn't like something, it could change it. And so therefore Facebook would become so powerful that we could end up having countries where, let's say there was a country that didn't want to bend to the group, the Facebook, whoever's in charge of the currency, whatever their will was, they could suddenly overnight spike inflation. Or they could lock down that country so people couldn't trade with each other. You could have more social exclusion because they become too powerful. Now, I'm not saying that's in Facebook's agenda. I'm just saying the theory is that if we got to there, this isn't all the sunlit uplands that people think. What you've done is you've replaced an elected body, so a government that can control what companies do and it can have a certain say over what goes on in its economy. You would replace it with an unelected collective company, or whatever you want to call it, that would have absolute control over everything that you do. Why would you want that?
You just have to make sure Merkel was like an administrator, and you make sure you have moderators and stuff.
But that's the problem, that they would,
bizarre,
and so
it?
It's just a bit of food for thought that when people talk about all this stuff and they want to launch, they want to take over the world with these countries. That's part of the attractiveness of doing so.